Ascension Lutheran Church, doing a recap of our weekly Bible reading. As God's people and pastor at Ascension, we are reading through God's Word in the course of 2 years, and we invite you to read along with us. Last week's readings were from 1 Samuel chapter 2 through chapter 8. Action-packed readings. I wanted to pick up on a story that we don't hear all that much, maybe. We don't hear it in Sunday school, but maybe we should. I think it would be an exciting one to share with the students at least. And that's where the Ark of the Covenant is taken away from the people of Israel. So here's sort of the context to set the scene. We read there in chapter 4 of 1 Samuel how the people of Israel are defeated in battle against the Philistines. And so they don't know what to do. What has happened? And so they decide they're going to take that Ark of the Covenant into battle with them. They're treating the Ark of the Lord as if it's some kind of good luck charm almost. They're putting trust in this Ark rather than in the Lord himself. Well, they go into battle and they're defeated again, and perhaps even worse, the Ark of the Covenant is taken away by the Philistines. Word is shared with Eli, the high priest, about this. You might remember that Eli had two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, that were pretty wicked guys that didn't serve the Lord well. Eli failed to discipline them, and so the Lord was upset. So when Eli hears words that his sons Hophni and Phinehas are killed in that battle, he can hardly bear it. But then he also hears the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Lord, is captured, and he can't bear it. In fact, he falls backward off his chair, breaks his neck, and dies. Pretty dramatic scene there at the end of chapter 4. Well, the Philistines, they have the Ark, and what they do with it is they put it in the temple of their god, and their god's name is Dagon. Dagon is sort of a sea god. He had the head of a fish and the body of a man, and they put the Ark of the Covenant there in the temple. Well, they have this huge statue of Dagon there in the temple, and they come in the next day, and the statues fall down in front of the Ark. So they put Dagon back up. It's kind of funny, I think, that you have to prop your god that you worship back up, but that's what they do. They come back the next day, and he's fallen down again, but this time his head and his hands are broken off. The Philistines, they decide, we need to return the Ark of the Lord back to the people of Israel, and that's what they do. They put it on an ark, a cart, and then they put the cart connected to a couple cows, and then they send them off back to Israel. Well, that's sort of making a long story short, but I think there's much to be learned there. Our trust isn't in those physical things, right? It's not in those different things that God has attached his promise to in and of themselves, as if they're magical, as if the water in baptism is somehow holy, for instance. No, what makes it holy isn't the water in and of itself. What makes it holy is God's word and God's promise attached to that water and faith in God's promise. Same with the Lord's Supper. Bread and wine, not holy in and of themselves. What makes it holy is God's word and receiving those elements in faith for our forgiveness and life and salvation. So some things to be learned here in the Old Testament. The rest of 1 Samuel continues to be action-packed. We're going to hear about Israel's rejection of the judges and their yearning to be like other countries and to have a king. And we see what happens when the people get their way. So I invite you to read along with me next week. We'll be pressing on 1 Samuel chapter 9 through chapter 15 as we grow together in God's Word. We also invite you to tune in at 6 and 6 each day, 6 a.m., 6 p.m. for our supplications at 6. We'll also be joining together in prayer for our nation, in addition to the supplications at 6, on Inauguration Day, January the 20th. We'll be gathering together at Ascension in person and hopefully online as well at 6:30 p.m. To pray for our nation. The Lord be with you.